This video will contain Whale Lord-sized spoilers for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team. I'd suggest beating the originals or upcoming remake first and then coming back to watch this video. If you have beaten the games or do not care about spoilers, then welcome. Let's begin. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team were my childhood. Back when these titles released in September of 2006 for the North American audience on the Game Boy Advance and DS respectively, I was almost 11 years old and there were few things I adored more than Pokemon. Silver version was the first game I could call my own. Ruby version helped me adjust to a big move for my family, and Fire Red was just such a solid experience all around. Even the spin-off titles hold a special place for me, with Pokemon Snap serving as a great change of pace. And Pokemon Stadium though? Pokemon felt like a series that could do no wrong. Continuing on the success of the franchise and spin-offs came the first Mystery Dungeon titles, which served as a major deviation from anything previously displayed thus far. However, not completely deprived of the formula that gave the Pokemon series its identity. Seeing Pokemon games based around small missions and survival as opposed to the battle-heavy collectathon theme of the main entries was certainly refreshing, and needless to say, got me incredibly excited. I admittedly had and still have very little experience with roguelikes or dungeon crawlers, but the concept of survival becoming a dominant feature in a Pokemon game was the major drawing point for me. Yet, even beyond that factor, there are so many aspects of these titles to love, and that's exactly why we're here. With the upcoming remakes in the form of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX releasing in just a couple days, I wanted to revisit the classics and discuss what sets them apart from their mainline counterparts. I'll be showing gameplay from Red Rescue Team since I wanted to try out the sister game having only played Blue Rescue Team before, and the ease of recording it offered. Aside from the systems, there really aren't any big game changers, but some small differences do exist, such as the usual version exclusive Pokemon and the audio quality. I personally find Blue's soundtrack to be cleaner and more complete, however it all does come down to personal preference. Anyways, we're gonna need a dynamic duo to tackle the adventure that waits before us, and that means we'll have to participate in a Mystery Dungeon staple, the Personality Quiz. Your answers to specific questions will award you different points in natures, and the cumulative sum of your points along with your gender choice will reveal your starter, which there is a healthy amount of. This quiz acts as a great twist on the typical Pokemon intro, and the coming music, visuals, and humorous questions give this personality test well, personality. I'm feeling pretty confident though that our answers will give us the best start at Bidoof? Wait a minute, Bidoof wasn't even an option. Okay, hard reset. Okay, yep, that sounds right. Yep, that's me. Okay, that should work right there. We'll go with that one. Of course, why not? Nailed it, yep. Alright, these questions were completely different, so hopefully we can get something like Squirtle or Bidoof again? Is this the Wheel of Steins Gate? Hey, would you look at that? We got Mudkip and Charmander, my two favorite starters. How crazy is that? Let's dive into the game. Whenever I hear people discuss Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team, or just the entire series, the strength of the main story is usually one of the first points to be brought up. The Pokemon series has had a select few moments of notable narrative strength, such as the relationship between Lusamine and her kids, the lore of Sinnoh's legendary Pokemon, and the entirety of Black and White's story, but back in 2006, Pokemon was pretty by the books. Young kid goes on an adventure due to poor parenting skills, pisses off PETA by collecting and battling with monsters of various kinds, and thwarts enemy teams jumping from a simple mafia to eco-terrorists. Simple and charming. And that framework isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does make any form of advancement in the narrative department quite significant. Enter Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, a game that tells the story of a human transformed into a Pokemon with a horrible case of amnesia through the utilization of subtle storytelling. Something that actually occurs from the get-go with the imagery, music, and writing during the personality quiz, as a disembodied voice speaks to the player in a seemingly standard fashion. We'll make sure to return to this example later. Following your awakening, you'll be introduced to your partner Pokemon, briefly question your current predicament, and soon be thrown into your first dungeon to rescue the missing child of Butterfree. I appreciate how quickly the game puts you into the action and presents the game's major questions for you to ponder. What happened to my memories? How is my partner going to make fun of K as a name when his is Big Boss? And most importantly, why am I a Pokemon? The question that everything in this narrative branches off of. Funny enough, the mystery in the game's title serves as a double entendre of sorts. With those mysteries in place, the game begins to firmly establish the foundation with the introduction of characters like those in Team ACT and Team Meanies, the disaster-ridden status of the world, and the birth of your rescue team to tackle the various missions that are a result of these disasters. Since the game seems more interested in teaching the player the game mechanics and world building, the main enigma of the player's transformation doesn't become a major component until Alakazam from Team ACT acknowledges it later. This is when the game shifts its gears into what I believe people love about this title's narrative. Alakazam recommends a trip to a dungeon known as the Great Canyon to receive answers from Xatu, who bears unfortunate news. They foresee that the end of the world is connected to the creation of a human-turned-Pokemon. The following day brings the wise Whiscash into play to explain an old myth. There once was a human with their partner Pokemon Gardevoir who foolishly touched a Ninetales' tail and fled like a coward while their partner took on the blunt force of Ninetales' curse. However, that human would eventually be converted into a Pokemon. With a few pieces of the puzzle the game has presented, the player will likely come to the conclusion that they are the catalyst of the narrative's problems. A rather complex quandary if you think about it. Most Pokemon games, as well as an abundance of narratives I'd conclude, have the protagonist staged against a problem that is an outside variable. The Rescue Team games decide to twist that formula by making the supposed problem you. Additionally, Rescue Team cleverly capitalizes on the player's inner conflict by pitting a majority of the game against you via the rumors spread by an eavesdropping Gengar. By the way, Gengar's dialogue is actually very well constructed, as he harbors great secrets of his own, but the writing provided at this moment, along with our earlier interactions with him, masks those secrets behind a seemingly simple-minded bad guy persona. As the interactions continue later, he leaks information gradually and is proven to be much more than meets the eye, but that might not be apparent in the following days when he turns the bulk of Pokemon Square against you. Since the townsfolk believe you're the problem with the world, they want to kill you. And I'm not talking feigning like in most Pokemon games, I'm talking straight up murder. In another shocking moment for a Pokemon narrative, you and your partner go in the lamb and spend a great portion of the game seeking the truth behind your transformation, which kickstarts an entire line of dungeons that are in some shape or form related to the identity question established in the introduction. What a bold decision to strip the player from the setting they were familiarized with and have them actively pursued as the perceived villain. The next couple dungeons are good for building the relationship between you and your partner as you strike down legendary bird after legendary bird, but development remains relatively tame until you reach the fabled Ninetales of the far ends of the world. The player will reach the peak of Mount Freeze only to be finally confronted by the persistent Team ACT, who I find to be characterized quite well. They enter the story as the heroes, the status all rescue teams strive for, and they were even willing to give you the chance to flee and find a potential truth. Their sympathetic demeanor and ability to follow in your footsteps, unlike any of the other teams, reinforces their respected reputation and resolve. These culminate in an encounter they are resistant towards but feel obligated to conduct. Luckily, Ninetales' timely emergence delivers the good news that you are not the human from the legend, and the curse is not related to the calamities in the slightest. I also just appreciate this portrait of shock from Alakazam since it reveals and foreshadows that there exist Pokemon that exceed even his level of knowledge and strength. And right on cue, a huge series of earthquakes is triggered, which is said to precede the awakening of Groudon. This concept is just another small detail I adore, but there are times that your team has no idea what some Pokemon even are. This notion is made especially evident when your partner expresses confusion over what the hell is a Groudon, and how this monster is built up heavily through mythical tales without ever showing it. This development continues once you return triumphantly to Pokemon Square, but I can't imagine how cool this must be from the perspective of somebody that's never seen a Groudon before. Team ACT elects to subdue Groudon themselves, further establishing their high stature, but they and another whole rescue team are unable to defeat Groudon or its dungeon Magma Cavern. That's some magnificent build-up right there, and a great method of setting the stage. Since the Refugee Act was a long stretch of endurance, the game slows for a bit where you perform rescue missions, complete an easy dungeon in Uproar Forest, and get your house remodeled. The pacing admittedly can get a bit repetitive and muddled here, but it picks up when you take on the task to save Team ACT and defeat Groudon. It's the passing of the torch moment where you take on the mantle created by Alakazam and shift from the once-believed villain of the Pokemon world to a hero. And it's not done there either, as you come to find out that you are the hero. Turns out a giant meteor was the true reason behind all the calamities, and your success as refugees and legendary slayers has earned you the job of coaxing Rayquaza. Yeah, thanks everyone, much appreciated. Rayquaza's home of Sky Pillar is the ultimate dungeon, but before the finale, we have the big reveal. I haven't discussed this point until now, but Gardevoir, the Pokemon that took on the full blunt of Ninetales' curse, has occasionally appeared in your dreams over the course of the game to reveal information piece by piece, sometimes in a way that reinforces negative preconceptions like your status as the world's problem. Yet I wanted to hold off since this last dream epitomizes all of the setup in the game's themes. The music and background accompanying Gardevoir in your dreams is extremely similar to that found in the personality quiz, and would likely link her to that disembodied voice. If you recall the opening, the way that the voice speaks is as if two strangers were meeting for the first time. Had the player and voice known each other well, then perhaps these questions wouldn't need to be asked since they would already know who that person truly is. Recalling an earlier dream of Gardevoir, she remarks that they've never met the player before, which would make her a perfect match for the first presence you were acquainted with in the beginning of the game. Or at least a part of the collective we Gardevoir refers to later when the task of picking a hero was necessary. The hero's job was to save the world from the meteor and then return to their life as a human following the job's completion, which means abandoning the only world your character remembers, and you as the player have known. What all of this amounts to is relationship building, and as I mentioned earlier, a unique twist on the usual Pokemon introduction, but in a weighty, melancholic manner. The portrait boxes beautifully illustrate the delivery and relationship too, as I feel I can hear how this scene would play out from the shocked expressions of the player and Gardevoir's cheery, laughing portrait. It's a subdued but lovely take on the night before the final battle trope. Although, before Gardevoir appears, Gengar slips you into a nightmare and makes the interesting comment, "But who would have thought you were also a human before?" It could be assumed and is eventually revealed in a post-game dungeon that Gengar was the human partner of Gardevoir, which would explain his motive to paint you as the scapegoat just in case word spilled out about a human-turned Pokemon. But in a sad moment shown off camera, Gardevoir alerts you that someone was peering into your dream, only to be filled with immense sadness and run off crying. This is that tidbit of information that teases or potentially confirms Gengar's relationship with Gardevoir, and becomes the biggest turning point for his character once we reach the finale and postgame. But from there, it's off the Sky Tower. The team uses the teleport gem, dies several times due to Aerodactyl or Silverwind, defeats Rayquaza, destroys the meteor, and plummets back down to the ground. Gengar actually saves you from certain death, but only says that he's going to drag you into the Dark World and that he got lost in order to hide his true intentions. Also note the choice of "I can't tell which way is which," to potentially allude to an inner conflict wrestling within Gengar. I think this is probably one of, if not Gengar's most subtle moments of character development. In the most heartfelt moment of the entire game, and its final moments, you wish your partner and friends goodbye as you return to your previous existence. The game even throws a sucker punch by using a crying portrait for your partner that has not appeared previously. Although it doesn't fully pull the trigger, that concept's pretty strong for a Pokemon narrative to potentially close out on, and plenty more somber than anything in the series prior. And that's the key takeaway. Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team is twisting and remodeling core elements of the mainline titles to give the story a healthy injection of pathetic appeal, and strong personal attachment that might be missing from its predecessors. Is that to say Generation 1 through 3's mainline games lack charm or immersive qualities?
No way. We got you. Not a chance.
It's a different kind, and a step in the right direction to set up an even more ambitious story. Okay, that was a lot, but what if I told you that this creative reinvention of the Pokemon formula doesn't stop at the story?
What? There's more?
When it comes to the feel, Mystery Dungeon is what I'd refer to as a remarkable spin-off title. One that retains defining characteristics from the mainline games while innovating and making the gameplay feel unique. As I mentioned, Mystery Dungeon is split up into procedurally randomized dungeons, so each floor will vary greatly amongst one another and from revisits. The central goal of each dungeon is to find the stairs hidden on each floor to reach the dungeon's objective, whether that's a rescue mission on a specific floor or an event waiting on the final floor. Sometimes you're gonna have the worst layout imaginable and don't find the stairs until you've entered the final unexplored room with no health, a conga line of enemies behind you, and the death of Wormwood the Weedle.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
And sometimes you spawn one square away from the stairs. Would you look at that? Seems the luck factor was a trait of the main series games that carried over quite seamlessly. So to be honest though, the era of uncertainty is one of the Rescue Team title's greatest features. You might not know where the stairs are, what Pokemon you're going to encounter in this dungeon, or quite possibly the scariest variable, how many floors there are in total. As a result of these problems, dungeons are survival games that require forethought, clever moves, and constant awareness. You could walk into any dungeon without any Oran Berries for recovery or Max Elixirs for sustainability and then get completely stomped by a Fury Attack Rhyhorn. Oh yeah, multi-hit moves are broken. Moves that work one way in the mainline titles might not work exactly how they do in the Mystery Dungeon title, which gives it another breath of fresh air. Luckily, HP can be recovered naturally by moving or quick moving, but PP? Not so much. Yet HP and PP, oh god, try saying that 5 times fast, are Pokemon staples and familiar territory unlike the last meter, which is extraordinarily important to your survival. Hunger. Upon entering a dungeon, your belly will be at full, but as you move and progress throughout the dungeon, it will decrease. Not to mention that quick moving, walking through special terrain, and certain items will expedite the depletion. Eating consumable items like gummies, max elixirs, and apples will replenish certain amounts of your belly, but if it hits 0, You lose 1 HP every step, which can be unbelievably stressful if you don't have food items or can't find the stairs. And stressful is a perfect way to describe Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but I mean that in the best way possible. The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask can be an astonishingly stressful experience your first playthrough, and even still after multiple, but that stress is also what is so alluring about the game, as it provides a mountain for the player to surpass. And the same goes for Mystery Dungeon. Does surviving 99 floors of a dungeon full of enemy monster houses, traps, and powerful opponents sound like a walk in the park? If you answered yes, then I think we might need to have a discussion, but I think it's safe to say no, it doesn't. But is there an enormous feeling of euphoria that comes along with the stress as you reach the final 20 floors? I would say absolutely. Something about that fusion of excitement and stress comes across very real and without a doubt memorable. I still talk and reflect on the struggles and eventual success I found during my experience with the gauntlet that is Silver Trench and its 99 floors. However, I realize this sensation might not be for everyone, which is why I conclude that it was an excellent choice for those more challenging dungeons to not be required for the main story. Of course, one of the biggest mechanics of the Mystery Dungeon series is recruitment. Typical Pokemon games will have you catching Pokemon through wild encounters to add them to your team, and Mystery Dungeon builds off of that foundation. Instead of weakening a Pokemon to a lower threshold of health or using a special kind of ball to raise the catch rate, Mystery Dungeon opts for a system based off of fainting the Pokemon from an adjacent tile to earn a chance at recruitment. Like Pokemon with catch rates, Pokemon have specific recruitment percentages that can range from a generous 35% to an holy shit why. It's not all bad, since you can raise the chances with specific items like the friend bow or raising your own level. I do believe that the base games offer a more tactical take on getting more Pokemon, but I really admire Rescue Team's spin. They even do the slight fake out that the mainline titles have, except that the shakes are replaced with the Pokemon flickering in and out of reality. It's a great feeling that is heightened by the encounters with legendaries like Groudon, Rayquaza, or the Regis, which are definite pains to recruit. Yet, it's quite addicting the hunt for them, and the payoff of recruitment blends exceptionally well with some of the longer and tougher dungeons that the game has to offer. And let's not forget about the friend areas you can purchase and explore, which are extremely cute and charming with their aesthetics and music. Although, unfortunately, it seems the explorable nature isn't making a full return in the remake. Certainly not game-changing, but a bit sad. With all of the gameplay ingredients mixed together, I regard Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team as games that possess an unprecedented level of replayability. If you want an example, when I was younger, I believe I beat this game around 10 times. Assuming I put around 20 to 25 hours per playthrough, how much time is that? Oh god, I'd say I got my money's worth. That replay value springs forth from the diversity within Rescue Team's gameplay found in the multiple starter combinations, randomized dungeons, and recruitment chances. Given the typing of the bosses, sometimes you're gonna have an easy time, others not so much. And because the game is naturally harder than the main series Pokemon titles, it allows for a more influential custom difficulty with your starter combination. Picking your favorite starters, mixing type combinations to run through some of the more difficult post-game dungeons, choosing the oddballs, the possibilities are wide open. Your starter choice even influences the architecture of your house. It's a giant mudkip, look at that! Pair all of that with wacky dungeon layouts and you have a recipe for freshness. With this list of great gameplay points out of the way, I'd like to make it clear that while there is so much to love about Rescue Team's gameplay and changes to the usual formula, there are some issues I do have after my recent revisit. Pokemon games have consistently received much criticism for their lack of difficulty and seemingly decreasing level of challenge with each new generation. The Rescue Team games and the eventual Explorer game sequels laugh at that trend, as they are extremely punishing, but partly for the wrong reason, which is the sheer amount of artificial difficulty that is much more frustrating than actually challenging. I cannot tell you how many times I missed an attack on an opponent that cost me my life, or my partner did the literal worst move that could possibly be done. There's a 4 times weak to fire Pokemon in front of you and you refuse to click Ember. Click the damn fire move. To be fair, you can turn off certain moves for your partner and remedy some issues with raising their IQ, but it can get pretty tedious. As for the missing part, I feel as if I can never complain again about missing a Focus Blast or Stone Edge in the core games. I would say about halfway through the main story in the Great Chasm and Mount Freeze were when these issues truly began to arise, but I will admit they were slowly diminished as the game continued. If you're looking for a challenging Pokemon game, I highly recommend it. But just realize that there might be mild frustrations before reaching what I would consider one of the game's greatest strengths. Pokemon games can usually be hit or miss with their post-games. X and Y or Ruby and Sapphire? Kinda lacking. Battle Frontier from Emerald or the crazy number of legendaries and World Tournament from Black and White 2? Oh, that's that good shit. Among the catalog, I'd say that Red and Blue Rescue Team are undeniable hits. Aside from the smaller focus on the player and partner story that even the game calls to attention, the postgame is so expansive and littered with challenges that it feels like the game's second half. You can finally evolve your Pokemon, a wide assortment of legendaries are available to battle and recruit, and even some of the final loose ends to the story are tied up. You can add absolute monsters to your team like Kyogre or the free legendary Bird, which then gives you the ability to recruit Lugia, and you can brag about the King of the Sea wanting to join your rescue team. I think the reason why I appreciate this system is that it gives you access to a plethora of legendaries, but it doesn't diminish their significance or status to do so. I find that the newer games in particular will toss legendaries in your face, but they lack the atmosphere or build-up that previous entries did. In the Rescue Team games, these legendary Pokemon retain their status with the mission build-up, separate friend areas, and sprawling dungeons in conjunction with the challenge of reaching or recruiting them. Another benefit of the post-game structure is its very episodic nature, which wonderfully mingles with the overall mission-based system. Not to mention, it resembles a highlight reel of sorts to the legacy of you and your partner's endeavors as you build towards the final answer buried within the murky cave. The postgame even introduces new dungeon formats that are composed of 99 floors and require you to return back to level 1.
You did not just f***ing do that.
Yeah, I just did!
I am so f***ing pissed off right now.
I have truthfully never completed these dungeons before, but it's a welcome bonus challenge for the truly hardcore. If you'd rather not lose your sanity with these dungeons, the postgame assuredly has you covered with all of its other options. When I saw the reveal of the Rescue Team DX remake back in the Pokemon Direct, I was caught off guard and immensely excited. After playing through the game again, I can safely say that a lot of my excitement was well placed. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red and Blue Rescue Team are superb titles that still contain fun to be had over a decade since their initial release. With fresh yet familiar gameplay, oodles of replay value, a fleshed out postgame, and a surprisingly engaging story, these Pokemon games earn their reputation as fan favorites. Are there a couple issues with the game style or difficulty, or could the writing be a bit tighter? Certainly, but some of these issues have the chance to get polished in the Rescue Team DX remake since we've already seen some changes with the friend areas and the confirmed addition of shiny Pokemon as well as Mega Evolutions. Red and Blue Rescue Team were games I honestly thought would never get a remake, and its existence gives me plenty of hope for new life breathed into the series, and the chance for what many would consider the peak of the Mystery Dungeon series to rise again.
See this?
Yeah, a little. Alright, go. Action.
What are y'all trying to
Alright.
do? Hello?
Action. Go. We got hit once, the first try.
That was so good.
Hey everybody, KJewelers here. As usual, I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it and wanted to click the like button or subscribe to the channel, it would be very greatly appreciated. I have a lot of big plans for 2020, and this is just the beginning. Speaking of plans, I've been streaming over on my Twitch channel quite a bit recently, and we're currently playing through Pokemon White, and we've done other stuff like Sonic, and I'm also looking to potentially stream the new Mystery Dungeon DX remake if you'd like to watch that. The group that has been there has been extremely kind and chill, and it's just been a great time to just chat and hang out, so if you'd like to stop by, we'd love to have you. I'll leave a link to the channel down in the description below, and feel free to give it a follow and check it out if you want to stop by. I also want to thank my friends Dan and Schwei for helping me with the short skit. It really didn't take that long to get our takes, but it was a lot of fun to do so. That should take care of everything for now, but thank you again guys for watching and all of the support on the channel, and until next time.